Hi everybody, I'm David, and this is All Things Sacred. So we've gone over the air suit, and we've gone over the water suit, the swords and the cups, and now it's time to move on to the fire suit, the wands. So, like with all the other suits, I'll go ahead and start with the ace and move up to the 10. This is the Ace of Wands. Wonderful and exciting card, as you can tell from the artwork on it. It's very vibrant, explosive, even you might say. You could kind of tell from the shape how it's expanding outwards from the center of it. The wand makes the tree of life. You can see with the little flames across it. It's a really cool card. This card is about willpower. If the Ace of Swords is about the divine intelligence of God, the divine mind, and the Ace of Cups is about the divine love, this is about the divine will. That in the Ace of Wands is used to cause creation to happen. God's will to make the universe makes the universe constantly. And this will can be our own as well. I talked a lot about Bhakti in the cup suit. And Bhakti is the idea of feeling as the devotee, as the servant of your master, who is the Lord. And really finding that love by having that dualistic nature. But the wands are more so about recognizing your own inner divine power and grasping that and using that to change the world. To realize that if we set our true will to anything, we can accomplish whatever we want. So this is a really wonderful and powerful card. It is difficult to talk a lot about the divine will in relation to God's will and how we can connect to that, because the instant that the will appears within us, it feels as though it's our own, and it is our own. It is our own. It's our connection to the divine. And we have to remember that all that we do is because of the divine. If we didn't have the divine love instilled inside of us as a seed, we wouldn't be able to find any love. And if we didn't have the divine mind within us forming the laws that create our universe and ourselves, then we would never be able to tap into that divine intelligence. And the same can be said about this. If we didn't have the divine will, which was used to manifest this universe, we wouldn't have the ability of manifestation ourselves. And so remembering that is important because it keeps one humble. But we still have to be strong in our endeavors when we choose to exercise our will. It's ours, and we should use it rightly. Speaking of using it rightly, is the idea of, rightly or wrongly rather, is the Two of Wands that comes next. So we have this divine will that awakens within us. When the Ace of Wands shows up, it means that we have a certain drive, a certain goal that is attainable, that is realizable, that is good even, that it's divine, right? It comes from the divine source itself. Another name for that I've seen actually that's really wonderful for this card, the Ace of Wands, is the source, because that really is what it's tapping into, this bright light inside of us that allows us to see ahead of ourselves and move toward that. And then we put the wands into motion, and the wands move very quickly compared to some of the other suits. The swords, for example, you get stuck in certain cycles, especially around especially in the 8 and the 9. And cups too, you could get caught off in the 7 and the 8. But with the wands, it's pretty much a straight through. You keep going, and you learn your lessons as you go, and you keep making either mistakes or you keep improving upon the ways in which you are taking your action and the ways in which you are expressing your will. And here early on in the 2, we find that even if our goal is good, even if we have this divine will to do this wonderful thing, to find happiness for ourselves, more than likely, because that's what we all strive after, we have to decide if we are going to use good means or improper means, as well. If this happiness that we're seeking, is it an eternal happiness or is it something that's transitory? And will we have to learn over and over that we can't seek those things that are transitory? And we'll have to learn over and over that we can't use improper means even to attain something that's transcendental and eternal. And for that reason, there are two wands. Right away, we have this will, and then we get to choose how we act upon this will. And that's more so because this is an Aries card, and Aries moves very quickly, more so than even any of the other fire signs. Sagittarius is also very quick, but Aries is an explosion that's there and gone. And so this more so is talking about what means are we choosing to achieve our goal. If we choose one wand, the other burns out. And if we choose the other wand, then the first one burns out. And our path is set. But if we choose wrongly, we'll learn into 3. These cards move very quickly, so I might be pulling 2 up at once like this. Because if we choose correctly, for example, with this, then the name of this card, Virtue, the 3, is really appropriate. Because we find that the choices that we made were toward a good goal and that we gain virtue from it, we learn from it, and it's something that we can hold within ourselves. But then again, if we use improper means in the 2 of Wands to achieve even good goals or bad goals, we learn quickly if those goals, if they're used, if we do wrong actions to achieve good ends, we'll learn quickly the virtue of not doing those things. And so these 2 cards act like that with one another. Depending on how one responds or acts during this time, depends the effects that the universe is going to give to them. And so this is kind of like the law of karma, these 2. You really learn quickly what grooves you start to set for yourself. So the 2 of Wands is about that dualistic nature. Even though we're here standing as the one with the will, there's still that dualism now as to how and where we're going. But then the 3 is kind of more, this sense of self starts to be again found that was there in the 1. You know, it's no longer a question of what it is that I'm doing, it's whether what I'm doing is good or bad, and the recognition, being able to see oneself clearly. The wands are really nice because the wands are fire and they shine light upon whatever they bring. The only negative aspect of the wands, of course, is their aggressiveness, their attachments to passions and stuff can sometimes hinder the progress that one is making, and they'll easily burn themselves out. But here in the Ace, the 2, and the 3, there's no burning out found. Even if one has used improper means of attaining their goals, they are still in the motion of moving forward right now. There seems to be no obstacles in their path. And with the Virtue card, when this card does show up, even if it's reversed, then it means you probably took improper means to get where you're at, but you know that those means were improper and you don't intend to take them anymore. Whereas if it's right side up, it means you use good means to get where you're at, and you know you're in a good spot, able to see where it is that you are, where you have been, and where you're going. It's a really wonderful trio. The 3 moves quickly. Now that you know what it is that you're doing, set the wheels in motion. This card really speaks for itself. It's so wonderfully created to show that the wheels then get put into motion, knowing who you are. You know, you have a good relationship with yourself here in the 4 of Wands, and that motion just keeps itself going. You use that cycle that you found in the Ace, the 2, and the 3. You know what your willpower is. You use good or bad means to achieve what it is that you have willed and to manifest in your life. And with the 3, you learn whether you were right or wrong, if those means were good or bad. And if they were good, you continue to use those means. And if they're bad, then you change them. And this motion just keeps itself going and going and going. A person may make mistakes, but when the 4 of Wands shows up, it means that those mistakes are of no hindrance to them, that they just continue to improve upon the creation, and that they become co-creators as well. The Wand suit is really about manifesting things in our life, manifesting the creation itself, because we all do it consciously or unconsciously, but when their power is showing up in a reading, it oftentimes means, depending on the card, if it's the 5 or the 7 more so, it means a little bit more of an unconscious creation. But the rest of the cards are really saying that you are trying to create something in your life. And this is the cycle by which it works. Here we're brought to the fore. It just since it is the power of creation, when it comes to the astral realm, it goes and creates the astral realm, the energy of the four wands. So it's just the system itself, so to say, is the four wands. To talk, I don't often talk a lot about the attributions. We have Venus and Aries here. It's not necessary, and it can be confusing and a bit of an overload for some people. I don't have much to say about some of these wand cards because, like, again, they move so quickly. But to show the happy nature of this card, because, you know, it's the system, and that's not necessarily the most positive word in our society, but this system is a good one. It has, like I said, Venus and Aries, and, you know, that's love and well, the god of love and war, but they're together happy in their union, just like in the Greek myths. The 5 is a point where one can fall off their horse, so to say, where the wheel can crack and someone can fall on the ground and decide not to get up anymore. You know, when the wand suit comes in contact with Earth, especially when it gets mixed with the various other forces of nature, then it has the tendency to make one dig themselves into a rut. Their drive and their passion, their forward motion, their will turns against them. And they can be like, I'm willing to stay stuck in my situation. You know, it's that stubbornness that can appear very fiery. Or it can also be like, I'm willing to be angry. You know, I know this isn't good for me, but I'm going to continue to be furious because this will solve whatever it is, and this is the only way I can express my will. That kind of attitude is what is found in the Strife card. You know, there's still a lot of power. There's still a lot of motion. It's still a wand card. But that motion isn't accomplishing anything. The energies are unbalanced, and they're fighting against themselves. And it's really the card of, like, fighting. It's the card of strife. That's what it's called. It's the card of conflict. It's the card that causes you to want to cause conflict because your energies are unbalanced, and if you cause external conflict, then that may be the way to solve some of the things in your life. If you can solve other problems, sometimes we think that it will fix ourselves if we solve things going on around us. But this card is all about looking out, you know. But and as I mentioned before in other cards, we need to look in, and so this card is a major detriment, a major block, and one of the only points on this whole suit where one could kind of get stuck. And the thing is, when one gets stuck with the sword suit, for example, they're stuck in the swords. They're trapped in their mind and the cruelty, the interference and the cruelty, over and over and over and over. And when one's stuck in and that's what their thoughts, over and over. And when one's stuck in the cup suit, the 7 and the 8, it is an external thing, but they keep that water going. They're like, oh, I'm going to be debaucherous. Oh, now I'm indolent because I was debaucherous. Oh, I'm going to be debaucherous again to make myself feel better. Oh, I'm sad because I'm disillusioned because what I was doing didn't fulfill me. But they are still focused on the water suit. When one falls off and hits a real roadblock in the wand suit, they can, for a time, take that energy, redirect it towards being stubborn, but what happens is the fire burns out. The system needs to be started all over again, and someone needs to reignite a new will inside of themselves. And this is like a snuffing point. It's like halfway through, so either way you're going, you know, either way you want to look at it, you know, this is a really tricky point where you have to keep your cool, so to say. You have to remember that things are working themselves out, problems happen, but you've seen the success of the 4, or if you're coming from the other direction, then you understand the beauty of the goal and how it's worth fighting for. And that's the only positive way you can take this card, is that this goal is worth fighting for. Remember that, but don't make the goal to be fighting. this is when you really see what it is that you are aiming for. Start to, these are the original fruits, so to say. This is the fruition that you achieve. This is the real warmth that one is able to feel within their minds, within their being, within their whole body, even their soul. The experience that what I am fighting for, even if I've made mistakes, even if I've been hard, or even if it's been hard on me, it's bringing me such beauty. It's bringing me everything I ever wanted, and I need to continue to strive for this. This shines in the mind, this is really where it sits here, being in the six, is the shining vision of what continues to keep us going forward despite all the troubles. The wands are a very inspiring suit because they're about overcoming difficulty. That's what the whole thing is about. We want to achieve a certain way of being. We want to be a certain way. But to achieve that, to be that way, we have to endure. We have to persevere. And when we do that, we realize it is easier than we thought. That what we were seeking, that we thought was so far away, was always a vision within our mind. That it always came from us. Without our direction, without our striving towards it, this goal wouldn't even exist. So we are the goal that we are seeking. And when we realize this, we immediately achieve this victory. There are other cards that come after, but they're all really about holding on to this realization. This is the card of understanding, of insight, of intuition, and practical use of those things. Applying them quickly, steadily, and continuously. All those words are key to the meaning, the true understanding of this card. Because like I said, I can explain the cards in so many words, but until you can hold on to this experience, my words are just empty. So find this continuity, this perseverance, this endurance of your vision for your life and what you want to manifest. And you will manifest those things. Believe in your own victory. Know you have a divine birthright to be victorious. I'm getting a little choppy, so I'm going to stop now. Love you all, and I will complete the wands here soon.